Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. I would like to find out, when did you wake up? Was there an event? Were there things that people said to you? How did you start to wake up to the truth of our world, to reality? So many people cannot face reality. They would rather remain duped and bamboozled and hoodwinked than rather admit that they were duped, bamboozled, and hoodwinked. And I understand that, because it is a type of betrayal when we find out that the government, that our public schools, that history, that television, that those that we might look up to, like politicians or celebrities, that they have been lying to us. They have been betraying us, that the world itself is not what it appears. I want to share with you a couple of personal stories in terms of what happened to me on my path. And this happened at a relatively young age in my early adulthood, and how that has helped me hone my powers of discernment, my ability to question. I would rather ask questions that don't have any answers rather than to have answers that can't be questioned. So let me know in a comment below when you woke up. And as you're doing that, I'm going to share with you a message from the sponsor of this video. We're going to hop right on over to noblegoldinvestments.com. And you probably know that the second largest and the third largest bank runs in history happened last month. The government is taking steps to guarantee all deposits, which means printing more money. Thousands of people have approached Noble Gold Investments to secure their wealth with gold. Gold is the most stable asset outside of government control. So hurry and go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth. And you can also get, let me share this with you. Here's an image of this free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin. And you can get this if you qualify, and you can find out how over at noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember that there is always risk of investment, and past results are not guaranteed. All right, noblegoldinvestments.com. Let me tell you about something that happened to me when I was in my early adulthood. I was a college graduate, and I worked the summer at 2 or 3 jobs to save up my money and go backpacking through Europe with a girlfriend of mine. And what happened is that we traveled all over a period of months. And at one point we were traveling to Greece, and my girlfriend's family was from Greece. So we were going to go visit a relative of hers. And as we were going, she said, "Peggy, I need to tell you something so you're not shocked and you're not surprised. They have a 5-year-old son that they are raising as a daughter." I'm like, "Oh, why are they doing that?" And she said he was the 3rd or 4th child, and they had all been boys, and the mom wanted to have a girl. And then she went on to explain that in this little village, this little Greek village, that it was kind of normal and people didn't mind and they didn't care. And she said, so when you see this he was born Louis, and when you see him wearing dresses, wearing pigtails, and the mom treating him like a little girl, I didn't want you to be surprised. And I'm like, I'm going to be surprised. I mean, I was like 22 years old. So we make our way to this little Greek village. And sure enough, there's little Louis in a dress with long hair that the mom is, brushing and putting into pigtails with little bows. And here's what struck me. Okay, a 5-year-old child, puberty hasn't hit, 5 years old, and I knew that it was a little boy in a dress, because little boys look a certain way. Even at that young age, they have a kind of a little toughness, and a way that they walk, and a way that they play, and a way that they throw things. The mom could put all the dresses and all the bows and all the ribbons and all the pigtails and change the name. And as the child got older, there could be makeup and surgeries and hormones. It's still a male. And I was pretty flabbergasted. In fact, it kind of turned my stomach, because my reality of knowing what a little girl looks like and a little boy looks like could not mesh. And I felt literally out of sorts, like, oh, this is weird. I don't even want to look. I don't want to participate. it just was completely off to me. And I didn't like that everybody was pretending that this little boy was a girl. And that was so many years ago. Heaven knows what happened to that child. I saw it as child abuse. I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. And it was a pivot point for me. It was a very important point in my life as a young adult to realize things are not what they appear, and that people are different, and that I couldn't even imagine if someone in my family had a child that they were dressing a different way or treating a different way. So that was one of the things that just made me go, huh. And the whole experience of traveling in Europe, seeing different people, different cultures, of course, I loved that. And it really kicked off an entire profession for me of international education and travel and learning about different countries and cultures and languages and foods and history. And I became fascinated by all of that. But it really helped open up my eyes in terms of things are not what they appear. So just sticking on that, things are not what they appear, not always what they appear. Here's a little more lighthearted scenario. When I was doing my master's degree in international law and policy, I was working in the federal government. Yes, I did. I've worked for the federal government, the state government, the county government, the city government. I haven't been on a water board or the HOA or anything, but it was interesting for me at that time because I was working as a research assistant in this university, and there were people from all walks of life. One of the professors in the group that I was working for, come to find out, she was passing herself off as a PhD. Now, she was being called doctor, and there are a lot of YouTubers that go by the name of doctor that are giving medical and health advice, but come to find out, it's not a doctor of medicine. Now, you know, and if you followed this channel at all, that I am not a person that elevates one profession over another. I need an electrician who's coming in a couple of days, and that person I would elevate over a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or anything, because I need that person. He's going to provide value. So I don't care about elevating professions, but I do care about betraying people and deceiving them and presenting yourself as something that you're not. I've never presented myself as an attorney. I'm not an attorney. It's the exact opposite. I tell people that I'm not, but I have consulted with attorneys. I've advised attorneys on different laws and strategies and so forth, because that's something that is of interest to me and I've studied it, but I've never presented myself as that. That would be a betrayal. That would be deceiving you. So when somebody is presenting themselves as a doctor, for example, on YouTube, and come to find out, well, it's a doctor of philosophy. They have a PhD in, I don't know, counseling, or they have a PhD in English, but they're on YouTube with a stethoscope around their neck. Okay, that bothers me. Am I alone in that? You need to dig deeper on all those doctors, all those YouTube presenters. So we had that case in the university. She did have a doctorate, but it was an EDD, a doctorate of education. And apparently somehow there's some sort of ranking where the PhDs at the university feel superior to the EDDs. I don't know, but that's what I was gathering, again, as a young adult, a student with a part-time job in this graduate school that was part of the Navy. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was able to see all of her documents because she was one of the professors that I represented. And I'm like, she's not a PhD. And I don't think I did anything with that information other than kind of file it away like, wow, you can't really trust people. And then on a more lighthearted note, there was a woman that was quite a bit older than me at the time. She was, I would put her in her 60s. And she was so well put together. I liked the way she dressed. She had beautiful hair. She had gleaming white teeth. And I could see when she would leave the university that she would go downstairs and she would get in her little red convertible. And she even had a boyfriend at that age. And I thought, oh my gosh, this glamorous woman, you know, of a certain age that is so well dressed and so well put together with this cute little car and these gleaming white teeth and this boyfriend at that age. Of course, I don't think those things anymore because age is irrelevant. But when you're a young person, you have a certain outlook on life. And here's what happened. I remember being downstairs and seeing her buy her little red convertible. And the first thing I noticed was that that little red convertible was really old and it was kind of run down. Nothing wrong with an old and run down car. My car is 18 years old. That's not my point. My point is that my vision was of this gleaming, convertible. But when I actually saw it up close, I was faced with the reality of it was kind of, run down, and it had some dents in it, and the paint job wasn't very well. And I'm like, here I am kind of idolizing this woman and her belongings, her possessions, and they weren't all that great. And then I noticed that her teeth, well, let's just say they weren't the teeth she was born with. Nothing wrong with that. I hope people can have good dental care. I take care of my own real teeth, but it was my image of her. And then I realized, oh, that doesn't look so good up close. And the same thing, I think her hair needed the root touch up. And then when I saw the boyfriend, looked not like I had imagined. I'll just put it that way. Again, I'm not passing any judgment on people's appearance or cars or whatever. It was me, that I was the one that had stars in my eyes. And I had this image of what wasn't reality. So those were two main things at an early age for me. And my family would even joke that one of my mottos became, things are not always what they appear. And so it set me off on this path of always wanting to dig deeper and not take things at face value. So those were a couple of things that happened to me in my young adult age. As things progressed, and I was teaching in the university, and I would be exposed to people that had a very leftist ideology. And I never even knew that there was I never even knew that there was left and right, because I didn't look at the world with a dividing line, although I do now, because there's right and wrong, and there's good and evil. And I do have that. There's truth, and there's and reality, and then there's delusion and psychosis that they want us to join. Watch my videos on the gender side. But in the earlier days, I was kind of shocked that people would be so married to their political views without even looking at the issue. So when I was in school and going through college, and then later in graduate school, I was like, you got to be kidding me. These people don't even want to talk about the issue. They're just talking about the political view, and they were not able to even entertain another way of looking at things. And I gave the story of having to go to speak to a professor because he gave me a B. Can you imagine? I got a B on a paper. He changed it to an A after I went to him and I said, I don't understand the B because I did the biography, the bibliography, not the biography. I did the bibliography. I did all my footnotes. I did the research. It's the right length. I had a thesis. I defended the thesis. Where did I go wrong so I can do better? And he said, well, let me take a look at this and I'll review it and we'll have another meeting and I'll tell you what I think. And I went there not so much to get the grade changed, but I wanted to know where I had gone wrong, because I was very driven. I got, all straight A's. I was the top student and all of that because I had this thirst for knowledge. But every step along the way, I started running into people that were so closed-minded. And I'm like, come one, come all, let's have a discussion. But you need to bring basis for your conclusion. You can't just make a statement and have nothing that backs it up. That's what they were doing. They were making these statements and having these arguments, but they weren't providing the factual context to back it up. So that was another big awakening for me in my graduate school. And I'm like, I cannot believe this. I wanted to go on and get that PhD and be a college professor. And I thought, I am never going to spend any more time in these liberal bastions, this academia, where there also is this type of, face it, there's a kind of snobbery that goes along with it, a condescension, and I don't care for that. I do not recommend that students or young adults, I recommend that young adults think outside the box when it comes to college. That's not the only way. There are many other ways to acquire knowledge and skills, and I don't think that college is all it's cracked up to be. I have a series of videos called, Is College Worth It? So the professor did change my grade, and I realized afterwards it was because my thesis, my premise, what I was promoting was in direct conflict with what the mainstream in that university was, which was very liberal. And I was promoting the side of conservatism. I didn't even know that I was conservative until I started arguing that and putting it forth. By argue, I don't mean having a blowout, but it's putting forth an argument, a premise with facts, and then you draw a conclusion. So those were a couple of things that happened to me. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe this. I think the next big one was with Clinton. And I thought that everybody knew that he was a cheat and a louse and a liar and not a very good president. But aside from that, that he was morally depraved and he had a horrible character and he had no ethics and morals and values. I thought that was just a given, aside, put the politics aside. But I started having conversations with people. I was teaching at the university at the time. And it's like, oh my gosh, you can't even set aside your adulation of this man to see his wrongdoing. It was stunning to me. And I continued to think things are not what they appear. I can't believe people are so blind. Then I think it probably was a combination of things. 9/11, all of the illegal laws that came through, which, by the way, you do know that the Patriot Act expired, although they're still groping you at the airport, I hear. So it was that the spraying in the skies really bothered me. And all along the way, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I am not a person that ever cared for popular culture. I never listened to popular music. I never had a stereo. I never had a TV when I was in college. I just never cared for that. I thought that I didn't think, but I knew that it made me feel depressed. I just felt like I was wasting my time. I would rather think and do and create and solve and be active than sit in front of a TV or listen to music. I didn't care for the lyrics. I remember being about, I don't know, maybe I was 10, 11, and I was at like the cousin of a cousin's house, and they were playing Jethro Tull. Is that how to say it? Jethro Tull. I picked up on the demonic darkness of that music, and I wanted nothing to do with it. So just throwing that out there, I cannot watch TV, movies. It's an assault to my senses. I can't unsee these things. So it's been a period of time. And if you're like me, you probably feel set apart from others that don't see it. You can't have these conversations. I can't have these conversations even with some family members. All right. And that's okay. People will come along at their own time. And maybe they don't want to. Maybe their reality of what they see is fine. And I think it's important that we determine what is worth going to the mat for and what is not. For me, the weather is very important, weather manipulation, the intentionally set fires, those are of great importance to me, and I will speak out on that. I typically don't cover the 5G and the radiation. There are a lot of experts in that area. I think there are a lot of people that woke up at that time when that started to come online and they were learning about it. For me, that's not my hill to die on. I'm grateful for those that are researching that and learning about it and exposing it, but it's not something you're going to see me doing videos on a regular basis. I might touch on it if it's interwoven with other things that I'm doing. So there are some things I have spoken about the biblical view of the earth. And I know many of you are asking me to speak more about that. I probably will do that more in a private setting. And this is probably, in my view, the hardest pill to swallow, if I can put it, the hardest red pill to swallow, that understanding one of the greatest lies of all, and I've been doing a series called Lies You've Been Told. We've been told lies about evolution, about the age of the earth, about creation. We're being told lies now about who can have a baby and who can't. So the enemy of mankind is Satan. It's evil, and evil wants to destroy good, wants to destroy everything that God has created, including the earth, the skies, the sun, the two sexes. Evil wants to manipulate, destroy, and corrupt that. That's a given. I think we can all agree to that. So when we take that lens, or we take that perspective, and we can overlay it on everything that we've been taught, everything we've been taught about the wars, everything we've been taught about history, everything that we've been taught about in California, we're being told not to water the grass. We're being told not to have grass, that you're supposed to rip out your grass and put rocks, and somehow that is going to improve the environment. Friends, that's the exact wrong thing to do. It creates more heat. in the terms of a drought in California, it creates a drier atmosphere so that you won't have rain clouds. You need more grass and more trees, and you need to water your garden more in California to overcome the drought. So we're told so many lies. Basically, everything we're told is a lie. And that's the perspective I'm taking, unless I'm proven wrong. So that was how I woke up. It was so clear to me with the shady nook when that happened. I thought everyone was going to wake up then because it was so poorly produced. The production qualities, I think they did that on purpose so that people like us would go, can't you see it? And the people that were blinded by fear, emotions, horror, which is why they always choose children. It's usually children, sometimes animals. It's usually at school because that's where parents fear sending their children off to school. And I'm glad that they do that. They should take their children out of school. But when they're blinded by fear, they can't see the facts, which is why in retrospect, when you go back and look at some of these things, when the fear has abated and the emotions have come down, you're like, wow, I can't believe people didn't see right through this. And there are still people today who don't. There are many, 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 many presenters, I'll just put it that way, on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute and all of the other platforms that are probably in on some of this as well. I did a video called How to Spot the Fakes, Frauds, and Phonies. I'll leave you with the big one right now. Anyone who's out there promoting democracy, either they don't understand what democracy is, they don't understand that we are a constitutional republic. We do participate in some democratic processes, but we are not a democracy. That is not in any of our founding documents. We don't pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the democracy for which it stands. No. In fact, I've got a t-shirt that's going to say, and to the republic for which it stands. And I've got another one coming out with a big slash through the word democracy. It's going to say defend freedom. It'll say defend democracy with a line through it and then freedom. So anybody that's pushing that is either ignorant, they're not thinking, they're not paying attention, or they have a hidden agenda for the new agenda coming out. So that's my story, friends. Some of you were surprised when I started talking about the weather, the gender side, the spraying, the earth, other things. I've been onto this for a long, long time. So we have got to stay awake and aware. We've got to stay connected and educated. And sharing this information is a way to let you know that you're not alone. I think that's one of the best things about this channel. And you have told me that in your emails and your comments, that you love that you can come here to see healthy Americans who understand what the truth of reality is, and to get that really the moral support, the intellectual support that we really need to keep going. So that's what I have for you this evening. I can't wait to read your comments in terms of when did you wake up? And we need to stay awake. And friends, we need to grieve our innocence. We need to acknowledge the betrayal that's been perpetrated upon us. That is the sticking point for many people and why they will not face reality. They don't want to admit that they were duped. They don't want to feel that they weren't smart enough to catch it. And they can't face the reality of the betrayal. We've got to help them with that. All right. Thanks for being on board, everybody. I will see you in an upcoming video.